Good, how are you?
Good, good, good.
Now, it is my distinct honor to introduce the co-director of the Telluride Film Festival, Ms. Julie Huntsinger.
You guys really are the luckiest people on earth in this moment. This is the best venue in the world, the best film festival in the world. And you are going to see the most bold, magical, wonderful, exceptional film. And I cannot wait to hear what you think about it. Have fun. The special surprise is that one of our dearest, dearest, dearest filmmaker friends, Alejandro González Iñárritu, is going to do the Q&A after. So that's a good surprise, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled for you. I would like to introduce Guillermo del Toro and Richard Jenkins. Thank you so much, you guys. Have fun.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins, I'll be brief. When I was 6 years old, I saw a creature from the Black Lagoon, and there was a beautiful moment where the creature is swimming underneath Julie Adams. And at age 6, I thought, I hope he marries her and they live happily ever after. It's taken me 48 years and 25 years as a filmmaker to try to do something with that idea. You know, for a long time I tried to figure it out as a science fiction, monster, this and that, but the allegories I was trying to do, they didn't fit that. And in 2011, Daniel Krause and I were having breakfast and we talked about a janitor discovering the creature in a government facility, and I thought that's the way to go in, is the way to do it with invisible people. It's not doing it with agents and scientists, it's to do it with the people nobody looks at. And that dictated thematically what I wanted to do. I tried to assume the form of a fairy tale, because fairy tales were born for troubled times. And even although we think of troubled times only recently, as a Mexican that has to go through immigration every time, I've been seeing a lot of this for a long time. And since 2011, it took 6 years for this to come to fruition. It's a complete labor of love, and I'm going to shut up. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Richard Jenkins, Guillermo del Toro, Alejandro Iñárritu. And we have one of the producers, Miles Dale, with us too.
Well, no microphone? Oh.
Well, Guillermo is saying, do you think that they like it? What do you think about it? Can you show it with applause? I want to say something that it was incredible for me to watch tonight, because long time ago, like 7, 8 years ago, Guillermo told me, I'm thinking an idea about a deaf woman that fall in love with a fish. And I said, I made a face of the fish and I said, I would love to see that film. And today when I was watching, I just remember how he described it, and that is exactly that movie. So my first question, Guillermo, will be, how, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but what was the first thing that crossed in your mind to have that crazy idea? So what was the seed of this?
Well, it was
Genesis.
It was a creature, in a way, as a kid. But then what I like is, I thought the idea of falling in love with something that is completely out of the question. And normally, a Beauty and the Beast story falls in one of two camps. One camp is puritanical, and they never kiss. Certainly, they never fuck. And maybe the beast turns into a very boring prince, and then maybe they'll fuck one day. And then the other camp is really perverse and kinky, and I don't like that shit either, you know? So I thought, why can't we have a proper Douglas Sirk movie between a fisherman and a lady, you know? And they do get laid, you know, and it's not a big deal, you know? Fucking is normal, right? And I thought, you know, look, I'm not normal. So for me, monsters are a religion for me. They're spiritual, they represent many things, and I wanted to tell the story of the patron saint of otherness, of outcasts, which was this creature. And little by little, it evolved. 1962 is 62, but it's about today for me. And it's 62 because it's the moment where when people talk about making America great again, they're dreaming of that year. You know, when Camelot was alive, when there were jet fin cars and everything was modern, convenient, we were facing the future, there was a space race, it was all optimism, and then Kennedy gets shot, Vietnam increases, and it dies. And I think when people dream about greatness, they dream of that. And I thought it was the right year to set it up. I thought it was great to do it as a love story in the Cold War. And having, you know, when the only trick was to do it for less than 20 million with the scope, because I wanted to come into a super secret lab, but through the janitors, you know, through the people that clean the toilets. But the background needed to be huge, and that was the main trick in logistics.
Well, it's amazing. We were just talking, right, that how we jumped 70 years back in the last 8 months, and how your film, in a way, is reminding us politically where we are now, and that's very, very, very striking. But then another thing that I want to ask you too is that, for me, what is the most incredible thing is that you, in a way, blend this fairy tale, as you said, that you are inspired as a fairy tale with this incredible ending. That not the monster becomes the beauty, but the beauty becomes you do in the essence, as you told me. But is too at the same time a science fiction, a thriller, and all those things blend together. But the most important thing is such an intimate, personal thing that what make this Del Toro, which I think is maybe one of my favorite films, because that what make how in a way do you consciously, when you are writing the script and telling the story, did you, in a way, navigate consciously about all these genres being married, you know, together?
Well, I wanted to make a movie in love with love and in love with cinema, both. You know, and I thought, for me, they're indistinguishable. You know, they are both the same impulse. And I wanted a movie that was in love with musicals, with spy movies, with Shirley Temple, with everything. You know, it's a movie about passion, and the thing that is important for me is to be shameless and earnest and honest and not postmodern, not reflective, you know, because we live in a time where, you know, to sound smart, if you talk cynical, it's super easy to sound smart. And when you talk about emotion and love, you sound corny. And we are almost afraid of that. And I wanted to make a proper melodrama, but the two only times you see the color red in the movie is in cinema and in love. You know, the door to the cinema, the entrance to the cinema, the seats, her shoes, her wardrobe, you know. I wanted to color code the movie to tell a little bit about that, and it took about 5 years to get the screenplay right.
It's extremely difficult because it's true that, you know, then the tone of the film is just so delicate. The navigation of those genres being blended, and tonally, I found it incredibly powerful and delicate. And all the actors, I have to say, each one are amazing, and it's outstanding. So, Richard, how was to work with Guillermo? Tell us a little bit. How was the process for you?
It was torture. Guillermo, as you can tell, has a vision about what he wants, and he wants you to become part of it. But at the same time, he wants you to bring what you have to offer to his vision. And he lets you work. I say, Guillermo isn't looking for something from an actor, he's watching an actor. If you look for something from an actor, you miss everything else that's going on because you're looking for something specific. Guillermo doesn't do that. He watches, he sees everything. Oh God, he sees everything. And you take off from there. He adds things, he takes things away, you add things to. It was an incredible collaboration. I see this is the second time I've seen it. And I'm thinking, God, I'm a little bitty part of this, but that's pretty amazing.
Amazing. And you know, especially because sometimes in genre films, the acting and the nuances can be lost. And I think here, every moment between you and her is so delicate. The scene that really moved me so much is that scene where she's saying, I'm a lonely person, and I'm like him. And then you turn, and after being rejected by this guy, you said, we are the same. And you both are basically rejected, and then, you know, the attitude of Michael Shannon that is amazing. that when he said this guy, the cleaners and all that. So there's layers of intimacy about political comments, social things, and all that thing I can recognize how you work. How was the work with her specifically? You know, how you plan it, how you rehearsed?
Well, we rehearsed a few days, and but we kind of started to live it on the set. I love her. I just love her dearly. I can't imagine anybody else doing this. But it was, oh geez, I had a point, but I'm old like Giles, and I can't remember what it is. If you look at her in the eyes, you're safe. You're good. If you don't, you might have trouble. But you have to look at her. And you start looking at her in the eyes because she doesn't speak. And so I found myself looking at her face more than I probably would if she talked. And it was amazing. And to sit next to her in Venice when she saw this, and she's very hard on herself. She doesn't like to see herself. Most actors don't. But she was carried away by this film. So it was amazing.
But it's important to say that the movie was written specifically for Sally. I contacted her about 4 years ago, and I said, through her agent, I said, I'm writing a movie for Sally. And they said, oh, sure. And I wrote it for Michael, and I wrote it for Octavia. And I watched everything she had done, and I was blown away because what I look for an actor more than anything else is eyes. I like the way they see. People think that actors deliver lines, and to me, actors look and listen. That's the main thing, And I always cast. If you think about Shannon's eyes, Octavia's eyes, Sally's eyes, Richard's eyes, they are such different musical notes, And then, and so it was written, and then I met with Sally and I said, I'm writing this for you, and she said, I'm writing a story about a woman that turns into a fish. I go, really? And when I met with her was the day you bastards, you and Alfonso said, we're going to get drunk at the Golden Globes. I said, we're going to get drunk, and I get drunk, and you didn't drink. And I was completely shit-faced, and I see Sally for the first time, I'm writing a movie about you falling in love with a fish. It's not a movie you want to pitch when you're drunk.
What about the eyes of your creature? One of the things that made me laugh a lot. Once we were in an interview, and Guillermo said that when he arrived to a set and there's no monster, he don't know what to do. And I said, really, and I think your creature, this creature, the eyes of him too at the end. I told you that I think Guillermo is maybe the only filmmaker that can really, as Haruki Murakami, who has this little short story from a beautiful book that is called Before the Earthquake. There's a little story about the man, the frog, who's only arrived to have an apartment and he starts talking with a frog, a giant frog, and they have a conversation, and in the middle of this short story, you forgot that you are with a frog, and you love this other guy, and suddenly he wakes up and he's in an hospital, you said, oh my God, it was a frog. And that's what happened in this film. In a way, you suddenly, this guy, you humanize the beast, and humans become animals,
Yeah,
right?
well, certainly in the case of Shannon and the military and so forth. But look, the main thing is, I started out of pocket in 2012, and I financed for the next 3 years. I financed a group of sculptors, painters, because I said, I'm not creating a creature, I'm creating a leading man. And it took 3 years. It took 3 years of enormous fidgeting and moving the eyebrow line a millimeter, the paint job, for the creature to be expressive is incredibly difficult. Because it needs to express despair, tenderness, innocence. So if you don't mind, I'll be technical for a second, but you basically...
Don't ruin the trick. Don't ruin.
No, but...
We believe that he's alive.
Well, it is a suit, and it is the most delicate prosthetic sculpture and all that, but what I'm saying, when you create a creature, you create it first in clay, you blank it, you don't do paint job, then you paint it, that's the second layer, and the third time you paint it with light. And it needs to work in all three processes. And it took those 3 years. And one of the secrets is how you layer the eyes. You layer them like an opal, like a jewel. It needs to be. They are not a piece of plastic painted. They are a work of art.
The eyes are incredibly. That's what I'm saying. That you mentioned the eyes of the actor, but the creature has an eyes that are so profound. Let me ask you something. Did you the sounds yourself? Because Guillermo do the sounds of his creatures. He always do their.
I did some of them.
Can you do one of them?
No, I mean, you need to process them, but I mean, it sounds like a fat man doing ridiculous noise. But I do. I mean, it was the sound designer and myself. We both recorded. I did all the breathing of the creature, all the breathing, the suffocating and all that. Because I suffocate easily. I just need to, but and Miles was my partner in all this adventure, and we had to make all these resources through a really tight schedule and budget.
I'm gonna say something that's very funny. That when Guillermo was shooting, I remember we talked a couple of times, and you said that it was your most difficult shooting because every day there was something going on wrong. And I said, those are the great films. When a director friend of mine said, oh, I'm having such a great time, I said, this film will be a piece of shit. Normally they are, because it's very hard to have fun in a shooting, But when Guillermo was off and said, this is a good sign that he's struggling with the beast. And so can you tell me a little bit about those days with so many problems and how you did that?
Well, it was a tough show because obviously it looks like a big movie and, it wasn't a big budget. I call this Guillermo Psycho because we did it in between seasons of the TV show. We used a lot of the TV crew. We borrowed the stages. We borrowed a lot of other things, fortunately from another Fox movie. But I said to Guillermo, he said the other day, you know what, this movie, I feel like I might not need a director's commentary on the DVD. And I said, why don't you just go through and do, here's the thing that went wrong during this scene. Here's the car that crashed in this scene. Here's the crane that blew over in this scene. Because, it was, obviously there was a lot of rain and elements and it was all kinds of stuff. But it's really, that's true. Usually if it's easy, it's not good. And oftentimes when it's hard, it is good. And, we feel like we earned it on this one. But, it was a tough show and we were, tight for resources and it was rough. But it's all on the screen. It doesn't, you take all the bad stuff out in editing and, Michael, the thing where you see Shannon's character pull up to the theater at the end in the rain.
Take one.
What you see in the movie is take one because there was take two. And in take two, he drove up, he got out of the car, didn't manage to get the car into park. Now, we're sitting in the video tent
It almost killed us.
About 15 feet ahead of it. So we're looking at the monitors, and this is happening over here. And we're looking, and it's like now, and my girlfriend was there on the day, and Guillermo and the DP, and I'm thinking, we should really run this way right now. And so then we see the car go, and we see Michael try and dive back in the car. We hear the first pole on the street go ping, like a bowling pin. It's a decorative thing. And then fortunately we hear the car hit the second pole and stop it. It was
4 feet away from
and Gear was actually thinking for a moment, do I have it? And I go up to him, I go, take one was really good.
No, but I was thinking, do I run? But I don't fucking run for anything. I said, I'm gonna die. You know? But you know, the thing about films is, look, I chose a genre that is not a genre that renders people speechless, or you know, I want to do something beautiful with a genre that a lot of people don't take seriously. But also, on top of that, I never make my life easier. And what I think is, every time I have a difficult premise, I make it more difficult by the approach or the way I'm going to do it. Or it's never easy. So on the set, you are agonizing for every reason.
And I have to say that for me so not only in the acting, this is the best acting film you have, and the camera moves, all the choreo.